you can express more. I just sense you know more that you want to share.
I got bored and tuned out. I'm sorry. I got bored and tuned out, so it was a really bad time to
that's okay.
Call on me for anything.
No, that's okay. Do you want to do another show and proceed? Because I had actually forgotten that Richard was going to come by. I tell a lot of people to come by, and they don't come by. You know, so I just I carry on. So
that's the problem. There's so many different threads to this.
Well, I just apologize.
Yeah, well, it just became something really long and talky and long, and I just no.
Well, let's now that Richard's here, let's introduce him to the Left Forum. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then we'll revisit what you're doing here, Richard. Now, this is called The Arrival of the American Police State.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can make this go a little better so I can. I'm going to go this way. Okay. And this happened at Cooper Union. And what I had wanted to ask Rosalie about was just sort of to comment on why people who have looked very deeply into what happened on the day of 9/11 feel frustrated with the liberals, the left liberals. Or maybe I didn't.
That's why we call them quote quote left gatekeepers, because they are they seem to be very much in tune with keeping to their Marxist ideology more than communing with reality, or maybe they've been programmed so deeply that that is the only reality. I don't know.
Well, along the lines of
things, I'd rather find out how we can get past them.
Right.
Realize that those thoughts out of history inform virtually all of our institutions.
Well, that may be why our institutions are crumbling.
That might well be, yeah, maybe.
I think a lot of it was based on
the roots that we're told it has.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher may have been wrong in saying there is no alternative. There may very well be an alternative.
They've closed all the other doors so that they can say there is no alternative.
I think
I don't agree with Margaret Thatcher. I don't agree. I think there is a very qualitatively different alternative, and I think probably you do too.
Well, yeah.
Well, the media is not going to let
Blowing
anything
in. The wind, Bobby Dylan said.
Right. That's in the out of the box.
Yeah, out of the box creative. Anything
Cynthia
creative.
McKinney
you know, a lot of people associate the creative artistic community with the criminal class.
Well, the artistic class can go either way.
By which thing is organized. But people are very leery. Believe me, people are very leery at a basic level. I mean, the schools and everything teaches, you know, you got authority figures you learn to relate to. And
right, well, the schools are run by unions.
Oh, just a second, Harold. Are you saying that people are leery of education because...
Well, no, I don't think so much that. They're leery. One thing people are very leery, yeah, perhaps, yeah, but they're very leery of disorder. They don't want chaos because they've got to make sure their family is fed, they got to make sure the mortgage is paid.
Well, they're scared.
Those kind of issues.
Well, but I would like Michael.
Scared.
But I would like Michael Smith to see this because his show is called Law and Disorder, and it seems like on WBAI he's protected to have that kind of show. How do you feel?
He's also a very close associate of sainted William Kunstler, who worried about the police very effectively.
Right. He gave me the book actually. How do you?
Yeah, he's really.
I'll give you a good
great
example.
There, yeah.
What's wrong with the left? I went to a meeting that was an anarchist meeting, but it had more rules than any meeting I've ever been to. And I said, you know, you have more hand signals and rules than you get anything done. And I said, this is the whole problem with even anarchist movements. There's someone that wants to be in charge, and they don't, like I was in a meeting and for 20 minutes I didn't know what they were talking about because they didn't tell us. They were just talking among themselves.
Yeah.
But there was one story where...
Yeah, we did a program with him, Paula. It's up on YouTube with Mr. Smith. Good guy, and he's associated with the Brecht Forum and that, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. These are like old, established left thing, and once something's established as the inner clique, the inner clique.
Oh, it's too close.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't know how to hold it.
No.
The inner clique automatically says nothing new.
Yeah, that's what Mr.
And I
Thatcher
didn't
said.
realize that. This is the assumption I think people make. The left people are always open-minded and the right wing are closed-minded. I was part of a group called No Police State Coalition,
Yeah, that's
where we
right.
did speak outs at Union Square. I was part of the 3 founding members.
Uh-huh.
After 9/11, we decided, let's do speak outs in parks instead of having meetings in offices. Let's talk to people directly in parks, in public places, and not make them pay to go to a meeting to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, we had egomaniacs, we had people that wanted power, we had people that lied, and we said, that's not what we're trying to do. And what I found that even some of the right-wingers are more honest about their opinions when they weren't afraid they were going to be attacked, whereas the left-wing people would be like, I'm afraid to really like go out of the box. I have to kind of like toe the line. I said, every opinion is welcome here. And even at the Left Forum, we had a dear friend who was in the squatter movement, a dear friend of Brad Will, the anarchist who was killed in Mexico.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Good guy, yeah.
And
But
one of their closest friends, this very nice activist woman, said she went to the Left Forum and she was arrested and given a ticket and prosecuted by the Left Forum.
Why?
Because she wanted to bring up more radical viewpoints, more anarchist viewpoints. Alternative
To an
viewpoints.
ideology, and remember
Right.
that
we wanted to get out of the
that
left-right
informed
diagram,
half of
that
humanity.
box.
That Marxist idea, and it's still very much in the minds of many. Lots of copies of the Communist Manifesto all over the world.
But all of those were made by the same gang who's on the other side. I mean, they...
Well, sometimes there's a concept
Marx
that's taken by left
Horace
and right,
Greeley,
and it doesn't
employed
work anymore.
Marx. You couldn't tell the difference between what Horace Greeley wrote and what Karl Marx wrote, and we still don't know for sure that it wasn't Horace Greeley behind the quote-quote Communist Manifesto.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Right.
That Turner,
heard
that
that,
Go
yeah.
West young man?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they had an open frontier and all those kind of
Well,
things.
it was the media ran things then like the media runs things now, only then Horace Greeley was the media instead of Rupert Murdoch. But
The names change, but the media stays the same.
yes.
Like Kucinich was not allowed in the debates. You know, Cynthia McKinney is running on the Green Party for president. They're not going to allow her in the debate. She's going to bring up real things. Because Obama is sponsored by
Different faith
nuclear
about it.
power industry. And he's for the credit card companies. And all the same...
Got Brzezinski.
He's got Berensky. I'm pronouncing it wrong. But basically, these same people pick these people. And I said, the people that are destroying the society, left-wing or right-wing, gatekeepers, whoever, secular or religious or whoever, they pick the puppets when they're young and they say, you are going to be the face of the puppet. And you don't go to them, they come to you. That's the problem with left and right kind of box thing.
Okay, so Rosalie, right now, can you introduce how you sort of broke out of this media hypnosis when you saw that there were no planes? Or
It was a fight even for me. I thought that the plane must be coming out because I could see that it wasn't going in. It's the first one. But after 7 years of intense study and scrutiny, we know for absolutely certain that they used cartoons, not real planes, on the second hit. The ones that they showed us over and over and over and over were cartoons to fool us with, to make us buy into their plot of terrorism and world domination and all.
Sometimes you have a penny dropping moment, and I think for me the penny dropping moment was when I was on camera with 41, the guy who does that clever musical editing, and he said the only thing that's not a theory of all of the conspiracy theories that can be established with the most clarity is the television fakery that was done during 9/11.
Yes, because real planes can't act that way. Only
Now,
kind of
now, Richard,
in a building like that.
now I want to ask Richard, because he hangs out at St. Mark's, what do you think about the no planes theory?
I'm not really expert on the technical stuff. I guess, I don't know what hit it, but something hit it, because it did fall down. I really go to 9/11 meetings not for the technical stuff, but to try and kind of find out, because I don't believe the investigation. It's ridiculous. The government is never going to tell the truth about anything. But I'm not really an expert on like the metal and all that stuff. So I'm not sure.
What's most interesting to me,
About
and
the
Rosalie,
technical
maybe
end
you
of it.
can help me out with this, with Harold too, because I was listening, Harold, to a show that we did, and I think I need a little more skill to explain why a media job is different from an inside job, and the government. If people become so mistrustful of their government, it's kind of like a virus can go in and destroy a system. That you know, whether you believe in kings or queens or presidents, you do need some structure to keep an organism together. And if you can start to mistrust that structure, then everything is going to be attacking it, and you don't have a society. Everything starts to fall apart. So the idea of a media job means that you're not getting signals. Like, say, a body, if I touch a hot stove, a signal comes to my brain that that's hot, and pull the hand away, otherwise it's going to burn. So if our media is giving us the wrong signal about what happened during 9/11, we're not going to respond with our body, with our social body, appropriately. And that's why I think there's a difference between an inside job and a rogue element that sort of bores its way in, using this hypnotic quality. And given that that's the case, Rosalie, I think, how have you dealt with that, knowing that you see something so differently from other people, and you have now for 7 years? How do you deal with that and wake them up?
I've had to have a high tolerance for being an outcast, and have to be grateful for the half of loaf that I am able to say these things, even if people don't believe me. At least it gets out there into the public consciousness, and maybe magically or shoot the moon, they'll suddenly stop this fanatic denial business and look at the evidence.
Yes,
I don't even know if their eyes work.
I know, it's like heartbreaking, and I can feel it. And when I sort of review some of what you've been through, and I look at the comments that people will leave, Harold, Robert Ashford said that in terms of an economic model, a rising tide raises all boats. But he says you need a boat, and in the case of you need a boat, and in the case of but in the case of a boat, half a boat won't work. Rosalie said she's having to deal with half a loaf, but there comes a time where you can't accept half a boat.
We could change this. If everybody suddenly could use their eyes to see that, real planes don't vanish like that. They fooled us with cartoons, and then they looked at the cartoon world that they have projected for us since. I mean, the nightly news, unless it's local stuff, and it's not all that's real either. They just make this stuff up.
Yeah. Harold, any comments on that?
Well, it's hard to put your mind around it. It's just that, I think maybe you can go to questions: are we optimistic or pessimistic about the human prospect? It's very worrying. We have such weapons of destruction that have come to be part of the scenario in terms of consciousness, even that we could apparently, I don't know, it's modeled. We could destroy the species if we let loose the weapons of destruction that we have. And there may be a positive side to that equation that we overlook, which is something to do with an altered reality, which might involve the idea, as Fuller and Murray Bookchin very intelligently put forth, that it may be, if we were to look at things comprehensively, we've actually transcended material scarcity at a level of reality founding principles and the way people get a sense of identity of all our institutions.
Right. Any comments on scarcity being transcended, having been in the homeless situation?
Well, I found that I call it the poverty pimp military industrial complex.
The what?
The poverty pimp military industrial complex.
Poverty pimp military industrial complex.
Well, basically it is. I've been used to be in homeless groups to advocate for them, and I met people that their entire life was in foster homes.
Okay, wait a minute, I heard you right there.
And jails. And they're 60 years old, and they've never really ever been out of an institution. They've been totally institutionalized. And I said, this is the problem with these, like, the Black Panthers came up with this. They called them poverty pimps. They would kind of use poor people as a tax exemption to just give them money to not pay taxes. And I said, that's not the reason to do something. I said that that's the wrong motivation if you're helping people for some alternative other reason. And I said, this is the problem why there's no trust, because even, like, we tried to help this woman who came to us at Union Square, and she had a daughter that's trapped in the child care system, and she gave us up after we helped her and slept over, and we went to her demos and everything else, for these black nationalists, New Black Panther Party, which is not the old Black Panther Party, who were friends of Farrakhan, who helped kill Malcolm X. And I said, I guess they got to him and said, you know, don't talk to white people, that ridiculous mentality. So even like when you try and help people, they don't get it sometimes.
What do you do then?
And we decided in the future that we had to be very picky and choosy if people come to us, because she said she heard about our group, because we go to all the demonstrations and we go to different things because we care about a lot of issues: homelessness, police brutality, anarchism, the homeless, the
It would be
healthcare
nice if your
system.
group would go to Devin Clark's office and ask him why he made this cartoon of a plane hitting a building when it wasn't really there.
Who is he?
Do you think, Rosalie, that they could comprehend the implications of that? I mean, I think Harold is starting to wrap his head around it. Could a homeless person who's so concerned with just having...
Somebody's got to care enough, and it seems like at least homeless people are closer to reality.
Uh-huh.
A reality, yeah.
What do you
Well,
think?
because people, if they have
depends
money,
on the mindset.
can make their imagination appear more real.
Right.
But if you don't have the money and the shelter and all, your imagination isn't going to do shit.
And then apply that to a world scale, our brothers in Africa and so forth.
Yeah.
It's a large metaphor for the whole system. And we don't have, despite Mrs. Thatcher's saying there is no alternative, there may very well be important alternatives that are being overlooked.
The plate-shaped
just
hole
not
shows
talked
us
about.
that we could have free energy. It was created by cold fusion weaponry. If this cold fusion process were used in any of the dozens of peaceful ways, we wouldn't need their oil, we wouldn't need their wars.
Can I make a comment on the cold fusion? Because in looking over the left forum and the comments, it looked as though somebody slipped a comment in there where he was all pro being no planes and September clues, and he had said everything right. And then he slipped in one thing that said cold fusion, of course, was discredited. But from everything I saw, I hardly felt, and I can certainly go and verify that it was not discredited.
They spent 20 years, 25 years, 30 years trying to discredit it. And the same people who are going to say that I'm discredited because, you know, somebody's called me this name or that name.
Yes, I know, with the labels. But now we get back again to Devin Clark, because we had quite a vigorous conversation about that with Frank Craven. If a cartoonist has created a cartoon that then mobilized an entire country to go to war, wouldn't that be a war criminal? And who should call them on it? Because when I listen to those conversations of Pump It Out, you can see even Pump It Out, when he's talking to him, in the moment of his conversation, he's respectful like one human being to another. just sort of not assuming the worst of the other human being. But when you think behind this nice smooth talk is covering over such a massive lie, it just boggles the mind, and it's like part of you just shuts down and you don't even want to go there. And it's like WebFairy, you're bringing up, somebody should go and see him. Well, probably ideal people would be me and Joe Friendly. But I constantly watch Joe Friendly snap down in the same way that he complains that Harold snaps down when Harold interrupts people. That he just doesn't want to go there. And obviously I must have these same mechanisms in me, and if you haven't even looked at no plane theory after so many years at St. Mark's.
They don't talk about it.
They don't. They
never heard about
They
it.
don't talk about
Others
it.
let you think that it's all just crazy stuff from COINTELPRO.
Yes.
Sure,
But
that's the way they're marginalized.
yes, but
It reaches the point where natural laws are marginalized. We deserve whatever's coming, and it isn't just going to happen to somebody else.
yes, I
Be
understand.
careful for what you think, because it's a new ball game when you've got weapons that are species lethal, and they're still going down a course without a vision of an organizational way for the humanity within an ecological context and so forth.
But if people have become that stupid, the very best thing that the universe could do would be to make itself smarter by, wiping out.
Yeah, we're just a cancer on the thing of Gaia, and that other biotic systems will come along when we destroy ourselves. And there may be other systems out in the universe that have done that.
Now, Harold, you've often said that if you were Nick the Greek, you would not bet on the survival of people.
Well, if you look
But
at the
I understand.
visualist,
I understand, and Rosalie makes an argument too. But let me say that when I went down to St. Mark's, I was supposed to meet Frank Craven at 7 o'clock, and by 8 I was ready to pack it in because I was very bored with Kevin Ryan, and the controlled demolition theory just doesn't capture my imagination in any way, and possibly can only make me angry, and I want to not do that either. So, but I could see Frank was aware that Frank Morales. He started to flip through the DVD very quickly on Stephen Jones. He never played it. He had to skip up to what is the expertise of WebFairy, and that is Edna Cintron, which I'll put the DVD here. And this is the lady who is waving from the hole during 9/11, proving that it's not thousands and thousands of degrees. I mean, it has so many implications, that person waving from the hole, whoever she is, whether she's Edna or Rachel, somebody's waving. So afterwards, he let me go up to the mic, and I felt like there was a subtle invitation, because he did say in half a sentence that some people even question whether there were planes. So when Frank Craven did come, and there were reinforcements, because I do think we are social animals, we do need some kind of social support. Frank Craven came with a new friend named Michelle, who didn't come on camera with me the other day, and I spoke for a couple of minutes. And I actually defended Amy Goodman, because at the hearings, Harold, where we were to try to have Time Warner get a better deal, or the people of New York get a better deal, after I said 9/11 wasn't an Al-Qaeda job, I no longer believe it was a government inside job, but it was for sure a media job. Now, there may be more implications to that, you know, the rogue element, the virus in our system that's hiring them. And afterwards, Amy Goodman came up and asked for my number. Of course, she called me Becky, but, you know, at least she asked for my number. Now, so what I was saying to them at St. Mark's, I said, as I progress with more knowledge, maybe it's because Amy knew that there was something deeper than this controlled demolition theory. So I try to work, as Robert Ashford said, take people at their face value. You know, if they're going to say some good things, use those good things and progress on with it. So my hope was, again with WebFairy, was how do we deal with programming that we definitely know was done during 9/11? Because even Michael Smith, when he was talking about the planes going overhead, probably if you carefully asked him, he also did not see the planes, but he heard the noise. So we don't
What was more interesting, he felt, you know, it vibrating, you know,
Right.
What he said was that he could feel the building shaking.
Right.
Now, building shaking, I don't know, planes come over here all the time. They don't make the building shake.
Yes.
But we do know that the buildings were shaking before the quote plane hit.
Well, this is the wonderful thing about living your life on video. You can always go back and in the editing, you know, you can look at it again. So he told his story twice. Once at the emergence of the American police state, and the second time he told his story at the torture and the decline of the American empire. Where, by the way, Harold, one of the theories put out was that as America goes into economic decline, the torture increases so that you can get a people to, I guess in this case, go along with giving up their oil. You break their soul, you break their spirit. And I was saying, thanks to WebFairy and others like her, I can sort of withstand the torture that goes on the comment section when you do postings on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, it's how do you do it? One of the things that we want to vouchsafe if we can is this communicating capability within a new context that we never had out of history in terms of effective multimedia. They call it public access. It was there 30 years before there was an internet, and it's a very important institution, and I'm happy to be involved in it because it gives a chance for a democratization of many voices, and something that is not part of the conventional wisdom can find expression. And then if that gathers more, you might be able to help. It's an educational consciousness-raising process that's very important.
Right.
And,
Harold, along those lines...
and your brother there, the anarcho, there's interesting reading on if post-anarchy, post-scarcity anarcho reading list of following on Murray Bookchin. He was really an important person. I'm not sure if he's still living. I'm not sure. If not,
he might still be around. I'm not sure. He'd be very old.
Up in Massachusetts somewhere, but he's an important source on that idea that there's been a transformation that should be taken account of. And the anarcho literature is really important in terms of informing that. That's what I see as a big major paradigm, a basis for a major paradigm shift. So I just mentioned that.
Yeah.
What happened is...
and we might be able to have, using Mr. Rosenberg, Marshall Rosenberg,
yeah.
and the idea of having a non-violent communication,
yes.
System which, if you think about it, if we're really at a time of post-scarcity, and yet Bucky Fuller, is my main man, and there's others, and there's a rich tradition there, that would mean that we could have a system where instead of zero sum, where in order for Peter to advance, he has to steal from Paul, which is the story of history in a large measure, and all the class warfare, we might be able to have a system where everybody wins, everybody's involved and can understand the new paradigm that makes sense, and that may be what the universe is testing us to find now. And if it's going to emerge, it's going to emerge probably first within the realm of this public access communication that Paul Gloria is so mightily advancing with this program, and WebFairy and our brother there.
Yes.
That we have at our disposal an entirely new class of energy that, yeah, they've weaponized it, but there's a million other ways to. It is the only energy there is.
Yeah, that's on the living side. That's on the visionary side, and we don't.
But we have to know that this has its potential. Ever since Einstein, the plagiarist, came forth with this notion that there can't be anything faster than the speed of light, that is absolute false bullshit.
What I was going to say is, as far as that goes, there's a great button I wear. It says, "The earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth." A lot of these philosophies, except for anarchism or maybe there's some secular stuff, which even can have some problems sometimes, is we feel we own the earth, we own the animals, therefore they're dispendable, they're not useful. Once they get old, we throw them away, and what's not useful to work, we throw them away. And that's been a plague, even among indigenous people, just humans. When sometimes a person, a group, a theory, or sometimes a better idea comes along and it scares the bigger group at the time. And the first idea was, why do we need kings and queens? There's no point to
that came from America across the ocean.
Right.
The bumpkins, they were just seen to the
But if you
feudal
look
order.
at these pyramids, you have people
where
going,
people,
right.
with the institutions and thoughts by which people get a sense of identity. Rosenberg would call they have unmet needs, or they have their needs met within a sense by which identity is obtained. And all of our institutions are predicated upon those the institutions that give people that. And if it seems to be threatening that, they will just close down and not even consider it because they're thinking about identity politics, I guess it's called.
Right, and that's the only identity politics we've had for a long time, have been left-right.
Yeah.
Capitalist-based
I'm saying that there's a whole nother level
philosophies
that has been consciously ignored and covered up ever since Tesla started inventing all this cool stuff.
Right.
Because Tesla was one who knew that there was a primal force faster than the speed of light. And this is the force that was tapped to make plane-shaped holes and then make buildings fall faster than gravity.
Didn't he also...
But for us to tap into that, I think my greatest hope is in exploring our own feelings and being able to face our own grief. And that's a process that's not a no-brainer process. Whoever it might be, someone who wishes you well or someone who wishes you ill, that still, in order to tap this universal energy, it means we're all one. So the testing is there.
Well, I'll give you an example. We've become a #1 leader in prisons. And the fence around Washington Square is made in China, believe it or not. And
There's
someone
a new fence
told me,
around it?
the fence around Washington Square, where they're destroying it, and I keep...
Isn't that sad? Washington Square?
Regina Dean.
The fence is made in China. So we're outsourcing even the fences. I call it solitary confinement for the park, the fence. They're cutting down the trees. They want to put in benches with no backs. And you know what that's about. That's just to dissuade people from hanging in the park, because who wants to just sit there with no back? It is so class conscious.
That design.
You know? Yeah. I mean, this is like Hitler couldn't have thought of anything better.
Well,
Let's have
Hitler
benches
got
with
pretty
no
well
backs.
along the line that, you know.
But I'm just saying, sometimes little thoughts like this
Yeah.
go to bigger thoughts.
Well, it's all coming out on down the rabbit hole. If there's any place where it's going to come out, because Paul is just reaching out to the far extremes of that, and that's really important to keep the avenue of communication with new ideas, a place
Right.
for that to happen. And it's coming in abilities that we never had in history. I mean, it's really a great promise that we might be able to find the alternative.
If we check into our feelings and move ahead, one thing I want to say, and I'm happy about to have this opportunity with WebFairy New Herald, to sort of put it out there about this bombing at Times Square, and how Nico, in his humor, said we did it, but then they may have been setting up We Are Change, because clearly Alex Jones really incites a lot of anger and a lot of animosity, so that even if a younger person only had a little bit of anger in him and anxiety, it would be multiplied by that, so that you could start to set up a group. So I want to thank Nico Haupt for dispersing that thought. What do you think?
We've got them all in this tent, I tell you. We've got them all. This is a big tent. That's Paula Gloria's big tent. And we'll all make an apple pie, hopefully.
Yes, right. So any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to just read a little bit more of the book, Sacco and Rossetti.
Yeah, it was a harrowing of it, yeah.
Well, the thing is, these people never give up, and I always said, the most basic point of life is, what are you going to leave on your gravestone, as far as, are you just going to leave, I had a job, I had kids, I died? You know, that's pretty much what human beings do. That's what they leave.
Yeah.
I gave birth, I worked, I died. And maybe I had some kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want more than that. Egomaniacs want a different thing than what I believe, but true spirit and revolutionaries, and I learned this the hard way, I always ask people, how do people with political prisoners like me, Abu Jamal, Leonard Peltier, or these, or the MOVE organization, and Ramon and Pam Afra, how do you spend 20 years in jail, or even what Zach already did, and not go insane? How do you have any spirit left, any hope? Because I would be thinking, why isn't there a movement to get me out of here? Forget the lawyers. Why don't they just go to the jail, dismember it brick by brick, and say you have to let them out?
Well, they did at the Bastille on July 14th in when was it? 1789 in France.
But we haven't really had that idealism since the Soledad brothers and George Jackson, when he went to the courthouse and took them out by force, and some people, and they're now safe in Cuba, but he had to give up his own life almost.
Yeah.
And I said, seems to be a level of comfort on the left. And I'll give you an example. One of the good people I know at 9/11 said his friend is a professor, and he makes about $100,000 a year, and he's at NYU.
Yeah,
you probably got his tenure.
Right?
I said, why doesn't he come out to the demonstrations about this park? I said, which side is he on? Well, he's against what happened. Why doesn't he say it? Well, and I said, this is the problem of this comfort level, that the left feels are different from the right, but they're really not. They do not want to disrupt the comfort level. And I had to, because I had a brother passed away from AIDS, a Vietnam vet, and he wasted away. And he was in the 10 offensive, and he drew the maps. And he knows about the drugs and the body bags. And my job got so hairy at this corporate job I had while I was in a warehouse, and I'm on disability now, that they fired me. But they basically just tortured me by asking me private questions, which is none of their business. I even saw the best people. This guy wasn't a ruthless corporate guy, but he became one. The more money came in, the more successful he got, the more brutal and like dishonest he got. And he used to be a nice person. And I said, this is the level of, until we're willing to be have a little discomfort, physical, emotional, spiritual, and I'm an atheist, I mean spiritual as what you do while you're alive, not waiting until after you're dead. What you do for justice while you're living, to me, is spirit. And a lot of people confuse that with other things, and that's just my version of it.
Yeah.
And the problem is, to me, is like we're in this box, and the left, I would say, since they killed Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and Abby Hoffman's gone, a lot of the great people, we kind of we use this word, sheeple. I call it sheeple.
You've heard that, Harold? Sheeple?
Yeah, it's an interesting term. Sheep or cheap?
Sheeple.
I didn't get it.
You might want to show this to the
people
camera.
and sheep.
Oh, yeah, sheeple. Yeah.
I'm showing a picture of a flag with actual sheep on it.
Yeah.
And this is the problem.
Yeah.
You know, we have sheeple on both sides, and they just don't question anything. I've actually questioned these people about the Democrats, and I said, if you're working and poor, what business do you have voting for Democrats? And they'll go, well, I know you're right, but if I don't put in a Democrat, the Republicans are worse. I said, but you're still dead.
Yeah, that's true, but
we can't get people out of that
where's
box.
The fault? If the fault lies, and if you're comfortably ensconced within the system, as some people are,
a lot,
and you get your identity by the template for all of our systems and institutions are set by the, let's just say, investment banking class or something now, rather than kings, and then people are coming along and saying, let's make a change from this, and you don't have an alternative way of organizing things that can address the means by which people get an identity. Just a lot of anger at the fact that so many people are not served, but you don't have an alternative that's really effectively able to be understood and keep the attention of the people who are getting their identity by the system that is in place. It's our fault, in the sense, on the intellectual side of things, for not providing an alternative that is so comprehensively appropriate to the evolution of universal consciousness that can be inclusive of everybody, including those responsible for the inherited institutions, which gets beyond the dialectic. Then we're in trouble. So the fault finding an alternative to the destructive scenario.
That's what Paula is working on.
Absolutely, and you, my dear, and you, my good gentleman friend. And
sometimes
it's going to be found in public access realms before it's going to come in any established media. Because the more you're comfortably ensconced within the old order, the harder it is for you to see an alternative, and the alternative is called for, and the future requires it. It's not being provided, so we have a tremendous amount of angst all around the world because our leadership is falling down. It won't come from the political and business leadership. It's going to come from the intellectuals, and they're not providing an alternative. Radical theories are part of that, and the WebFairy thing is probably part of that. But we haven't got it together yet, but we're getting there.
Several thousand people just got added to the not very comfortable anymore. Bear Stearns went out, and that's right there in Manhattan.
And even the Carlyle Group, I
hope
losing
it's not
money.
the demise of the whole system. That would be horrible.
We don't know that
I actually would like to see the system.
7,000 people who are suddenly no longer comfortable.
I just like to see things change for the better as far as
supported by the old way, or at least they're going to get an awakening.
Well, the Fed is trying to stave off a run upon that whole industry. You don't want to run on the whole industry.
No, like I say, when that guy, my neighbor, who was always so nice to me before, when that person was smoking, he was just shaking at the door. I just had to feel compassion. I mean, I felt upset. I still feel upset.
Well, he probably thinks if everybody stopped smoking, the world would be fine. Because the angst is...
Oh, that's right, Harold. You smoke.
Yeah, no, you understand what I'm saying. They've got one focus, and they divide us all up. It's divide and conquer intellectually, as it was in colonial times. And if you get focused on one aspect of that beast, and you think that's it, and that there's a lot of focusing on the terrible thing about smoking, and, it just is absurd.
But what are you going to do, Harold? Because that's where the person's at. I mean, he was...
I know, that's where
his
people
wife
are, but there's a way to channel the anger at the overall angst that's just in the air everywhere. Because there's not an alternative that's being provided.
I know, but what I'm saying...
institutions.
But what I'm saying is it's really easy when you don't have stock to say, the heck with it, let the whole stock market crash and let all these people finally...
Right.
But,
you gotta think of, and the ultimate challenge for people who are thinking alternatively is to not just have an alternative that suits their ideology or something, but one that can be inclusive of those so-called enemies by which the energy is generated. It's going to be inclusive of them as well, so you're beyond the dialectic.
Right.
That's really hard, because you get your energy from saying there are these evil people, we represent good, and that's something people would like to think. And it's one
that's where the left and right diagram doesn't work
anymore.
anymore.
Nonviolent communication, Mr. Rosenberg, is really important, because those people in those positions of responsibility for the institutions have unmet needs as well, and they are the ones that could be informed by what might come out of the realm of public access and the work that you guys, all three, are engaged in. It would seem to me.
Right.
That's where the answers are going to come, not from what you see in the established media.
So I was going to say that this is a time that you have to be extra loving and extra sensitive, and, as you work so that people know, even without money, I still like you.
Think how much you can do without money now. You can do so much. Look at what WebFairy's done. And I don't think you've got huge stock and money and everything And I know Paul is sort of on the edge, and I think our brother there is also. And speaking for myself, I just would, So you can do a lot. You can do more with less now, more than you ever could throughout history. So there are signs for positive thinking that is possible. But it has to reach out very comprehensively.
By the universe itself.
Perhaps. I think we're in liaison.
If energy were free, if our car was running on a battery-sized thingy that would last for the next 1,000 years doing what it was doing.
Well, I think you also have to get rid of the idea of money and say shelter, transportation, food, education, that this is not a privilege, this is a human need and right.
Well, perhaps so. And then how do we get to that? These are all questions that are there right before us.
Well, the problem is both parties are not going to say... Right.
And welcome to public access. You're in Chicago, Miss Ferry?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. Fred Hampton Jr. of the Black Panthers, whose father was Fred Hampton,
Yeah.
who was assassinated. He's doing a lot of work out there in Chicago. He came to New York.
Signs. There are
for a
signs.
rally.
There are straws in the wind and everything, and this program, Paula Gloria's, is certainly one of the major ones. And
Say, Harold, can we,
get on. I got a million things to do over here and everything. A lot going on. Okay, but go ahead.
Can we invite Richard to the meeting on Monday?
Absolutely. We're having a meeting, brother,
Yeah, I'd like
for
to.
concerned
Yeah.
citizens and particularly
I'd like
producers of a fledgling but growing organization built around
I
public
have to
access.
show you this flag.
ACAP stands for Association of Cable Access Producers, and it
Okay.
represents
I
and
just
is
wanna
trying to
read
reach
it
out
to you.
nationally to the producers within this public access realm. And they're having a meeting on the 24th, Monday of March, around 7 o'clock, and we're going to be presenting, we're going to be addressed by our executive director at Manhattan Network, a really good guy, Dan Coughlin, who's going to be talking about some of the realities of the movement we're coming up to franchising with the big cable companies, also the technological shift over into digital formats, and then he's going to be addressing us, and we're also going to introduce to the assembled Eugenia Dean, who is an absolute gem and a saint of a woman, who was the wife of Sidney Dean, who was in a large measure the founder of this whole public access movement that got started around 1970, a time which, incidentally, Murray Bookchin agreed with Buckminster Fuller was when we may have crossed that line. Not only were the weapons our species lethal about 1970, but also we were in a certain sense transcending material scarcity as an ontologic reality on a planetary system scale. 1970 is a major year. But in any event, she's going to be here, and we're going to introduce her. So you would be welcome to come. Ask Paula. She'll tell you.
Okay.
She can give you the address. She knows it well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'd
we're
love
going to
to
be
come.
meeting over here at our place on 36th Street. And it's a major organization that's a founding.
I'll give you an
Come by.
example. For a long time, I told BAI, why don't you have a show about the homeless? By the homeless, for the homeless, not put people on there from these do-nothing homeless organizations. And they refused to even want to bring the subject up.
Now, who are you? Who's refused that? Did you say?
I've gone to BAI several times to bring up ideas.
Yeah,
And I
it's
said,
a radio thing downtown. Yeah, that's
Right.
different in a certain sense. We had Indio and the street news people have been on
but the
often.
thing is, like, even India, when I told you about an incident with that woman, where they actually assaulted her at the left forum and called the police on her, and I even went there after it was over, and it's like a lot of money to get there even after it was over, and it was free. I was walking around getting literature, and this goon was kind of following me around from Cooper Union and harassing me and everybody else. And I said, what is your problem? I said, why don't you, and I'll be nice. I'm not using the words I use, but you know what I mean. I said,
this is
what?
television.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to use the words. But I told him, what? I told him, what? Are you some type of fascist, or what is the problem? This is a leftist event. And I said,
I know. Did you ever go to a meeting of Trotskyites?
Oh, yeah.
They will argue to the end of the world on how
Yeah.
many angels can dance on the head of a pin of a
Right.
dialectical interpretation of material reality.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So go on. What happened?
God bless
So
them all.
anyway, the guy, I said, do you understand what a left form is? It's supposed to mean not right, like left. I said, you should, why don't you just leave people alone?
Yeah,
And he just kept,
I went to a
can you please
protest.
leave me?
Cute little CDs that I'd made about the, at that time, anthrax menace, that they were
Yeah.
trying to have a vaccine. And it was really cute, and I was giving them out. And but then this communist guy who had a newspaper, I kind of figured to swap with me.
You would hope,
I didn't
right?
mean to buy the paper. I mean, this was
That's what I like doing.
classical capitalism. There was
Well, we're not against capitalism. We just want more people to have it because
Yeah,
capital.
I'm a big fan of Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations, and what capitalism has nothing to do with his system at binary economics.
Exactly, but as Robert Ashford pointed out, he didn't really know much about machines, and now so much of our wealth that our labor is minuscule.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of the Luddites.
Yeah,
You've
the
heard
Luddites.
of Luddites?
Yeah, but machines are okay. We just have to own them.
Well, that's the problem. The Luddites warned about, at least look at both sides of the Industrial Revolution issue.
Oh, so they weren't nuts either.
No. Anybody who went against the status quo has got to be labeled.
Yeah, right.
As a nut, a conspiracy theorist, or someone who should be in Bellevue. When really, it's like a real democracy doesn't put names on anybody, because everybody, even if you have 99% of things you agree with, there's going to be something you don't agree with somebody else. But that's what human beings are. We're not robots. Everybody's a little different because everybody has different parents. Everybody came from a different educational system, a different country. We're not all going to look at things the same way. But it doesn't mean we have to kill each other, rape each other, be number one in jails, number one in making nothing but stupid sheeple, in my opinion. And I don't know what form of capitalism you're talking about, but I think we're probably on the same page, because I just see capital as always like used by robber barons to oppress people, and my thing was everything should be free.
All right, that's good. You keep on that page, pal.
So basically, that's what I believe, and I would love to read something from Zacco Mazzetti.
And following Murray Bookchin. Look, get back to Murray Bookchin. He was really a voice. And you, WebFairy, you keep doing what you're doing out there, and maybe we can make a difference. I got to get out with about a million things I have to do.
Okay, bye,
It's really
Harold.
good talking to y'all.
Great, see
Come
you
to
later.
the meeting if you can. We're going to
I'd
try
love
and
to.
straighten
Nice
the
listening
meeting.
to you.
Maybe you can watch Chicago. Paula Gloria is on the cutting edge. You can't do better than being in touch with Paula Gloria,
Oh,
because
thank
if
you.
you've got something to say, there's where you can say it. And
I agree with
it's
that.
going to bring everybody into
BAI
that
will let me
tent.
see
Yeah.
anything.
Well, cross your fingers that I can do a nonviolent communication presentation
Absolutely,
at
stick with that,
St.
darling.
Mark's.
Stick
Thanks
with
a lot.
that. That's really important,
Thanks.
because
So
we're
bye.
all in this mess together.
Okay, so bye, Harold, and stay
We're
on,
the
Rosalie.
institutions that are in the way. Love you all.
Okay.
Got to get on with a
Okay.
million
Bye.
things. We'll
Bye.
be in touch. Keep
Bye.
up the faith. Keep the faith. Keep trucking, etc. I'm out of shakes, okay? But I love y'all, okay?
Bye, Harold.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And stay on, Rosalie. So, any wrap-up comments, Rosalie?
He took care of that. I'm concerned.
Okay.
We're more on the same page than I could have imagined, and it is a matter we have to transcend these petty dualisms and reclaim our birthright.
Right.
And I say that the center point of that is the fact that there is a fundamental force of nature, faster than the speed of light, just waiting for us to figure out how to tap it. And there's a zillion ways.
So what I'm going to
What's
do,
there?
great, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this, and then I'm going to send it as a link to the posting on the left forum talking about the rise of the police state and then the torture and decline of the American
Can
Republic.
I,
Make a comment on that?
yeah, I just wanted to read.
Which is second.
Oh,
Do you want to
fine.
say goodbye, Rosalie, if you're bored with this?
I'm listening.
Okay.
I thought this was very interesting. Should be related to what you're saying, and everybody. This is from the
Maybe
book
it's
again.
straight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how these things work.
No, I'm watching.
Thousands, millions of the best men and women were crushed by the mercenary keepers, by the prisons and the scaffolds. I would kill all the keepers of the world to save such as Debs or Magan. Debs was Eugene Debs, a socialist who ran for president. Even though he was in jail, he got votes, millions of votes. We fight for the triumph of a cause, not to be crushed by the keepers. We will never win without vanishing them. They are mercenary, we idealistic. Should a free man or rebel allow them to do what they please to him? Yes, if I had negated my faith or become a degenerate, I would presently enjoy privileges and I could hope for freedom. But their freedom bought at such price, I prefer the chains and the death. I like the answer to every argument of your letter, also to tell you many other things, but this letter is very long. So I close with affection and with the most heavy regards to your cousins and to you. Now, I know sometimes it might seem a little violent, some of the things, but you can see, as far as what they say, their sentiments are nonviolence. And I know I'm not agree with everything they say or every strategy, but they never had a criminal record. They never believed in violence. Zach, I forget which one, but they had their own garden. They grew their own food. They had a large family, and even the anarchists had their own farms, their own communities where they were actually the first vegetarians to eat well and told people to eat better. They had their own doctors, their own free schools. They have this book. They actually had anarchist free schools with kids in them, about 5 or 6. So if that hadn't been crushed, you would imagine the level of democracy, whether you still want capitalism or not, or money or not, no matter which way you believe, it probably at least would have been done more humanely.
Did they get
That's
millions of votes?
Yes, because people's level of awareness was much more. Eugene Debs in the 30s ran for president 3 times, even though he was in jail because he refused to go to World War II and World War I. Taxes, I think. He was against war. He got millions of votes as a socialist. We are so dumbed down now. If somebody was in jail and said they were a socialist, and not a criminal, not in jail for doing antisocial acts, but for being politically aware and caring about people, they probably only would get 10 votes. So this is how dumbed down, and the way you're using technology is for the positive.
With it, yeah. She's
to help people. Right. The problem is the major media doesn't use it for that. They use it for the wrong reasons. And people have been dumbed down, and what happened is they saw in the 60s education was free, and people were awake. People were learning and more aware, so they got rid of free education. And then eventually they don't put us on TV anymore. They just put, these stupid, shock value stuff.
Yes, but the WebFairy knows how to get you on the web.
And that's why I appreciate it, because I tried to talk about this one because I wanted to explain to people what an anarchist is. It's not what the media says it is. We have a long, proud history. We're a vital part of this country, like indigenous people are. But both groups have been kept out of the picture, and we're not even allowed to talk on anything, or even...
Frank Craven told me about anarchy a little bit. I know he likes it. And Rosalie, when we went to St. Mark's, Frank did show up, so Frank Craven fully intends to move forward. He's in Scotland right now. He was invited to go to Findhorn to conduct the fire ceremony. So when he gets back, which will be, I think he might even be going to Spain afterwards, so maybe in April we can do something with what we were envisioning.
That'd be fine.
Yeah. So anyway, I
really
guess...
cool listening to your friend here.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wanted to put a human face to show that anarchists are not these bomb-throwing loners who are psychopaths.
No, you're something much more dangerous than that.
I hope so, because I'm not any of those. But that's the left barely even wants to talk about those two subjects. They just want this box of left, right, European left, right, which doesn't work.
Natural laws are earth-based values.
Which 9% of the time the left doesn't want to talk about it. And even some anarchists don't talk about it. I really call myself a green anarchist. I'm very into the environment and biodegradable stuff, and I'm a vegetarian, I recycle. Yeah. I don't eat meat, I don't wear leather.
Stuff falls down?
What's that?
Consistently. Stuff falls down?
What do you mean? I don't
Oh, you mean fruit. What do you eat?
Oh, you mean fruitarians. Yeah, there's fruitarians, like Move organization. They just eat natural foods and they don't put any chemicals in their hairs and they homeschool their kids. Let's say they bond. I mean, that'd be a subject people should talk about at some point. The Move organization in Philadelphia.
How about the Freegans?
Yeah, and the Freegans too.
Do you know what the Freegans are?
Yeah,
for some reason they were on Oprah. I don't know how they got
their own
that.
food.
Yeah.
No, they're actually a political movement, and Food Not Bombs, I don't know if you heard of them. They were an anarchist group. They feed homeless people. Yeah. Fresh, homemade, vegetarian food, and, not the soup kitchen that will kill you food. I call it prison food. It's all starch, sugar, bland, it has no nutritional value.
Wow.
And I said, if these soup kitchens really want to help people, people, why don't you give them vitamins? Why don't you give them herbs? Why don't you give them organic, healthy fruit? Why don't you give them vegetarians?
You know what, Rosalie, my little alarms are going off. I bet a lot of soup kitchens or fronts for a lot of charity money that doesn't really go
It's
to
a
the right
front
people.
for rich people not to pay taxes. That's why the tax structure has to be abolished or changed, or the way it's done, the people are not doing things for the right
The
reasons.
First Church of the Final Judgment used to run soup kitchens in New York. They got caught feeding people to people.
I believe that.
Do you know, when I post this, maybe we can send it to William Cintron, because he says he does work with feeding the homeless.
Yeah.
So maybe that would appeal to his sensitivities, you know, and be an honor to his late wife. So, Rosalie, thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, so I guess over and out, and we will be in touch.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
It's great listening to you and finding out about a new culture, an
Yeah.
indigenous culture. Yep.
Thanks, Rosalie. Okay, bye. So there we go. We've created another show here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you to Paula.
Oh,
I really appreciate it. I tried every type of leftist group, forum, and everything else.
well,
All
you're
they do-
persistent. That's good.
Yeah, all they do is lie to me and lie to people. I said, homeless people need a voice, not the pimps that talk for them.